You're listening to Blue Collar CEO, the podcast that's all about helping you build a better, more profitable, and more sustainable home service business. Each week, we'll cover a different topic that will help enable your company to move forward to success. And here's your host, Ryan Redding.
What is up, Blue Collar CEOs? It's Ryan. It is great to be with you today. Hope you're doing well. I always am grateful that you take time out of your day. I don't know if you're like at a parts house right now or driving down the road or like at the gym, whatever you're doing. Thank you for looping us into your routine. I love coming at you with new guests every week and having great conversations. Today, honestly, is a really fun one to have. I'm getting ready to introduce you to Lucas Cellino. Lucas, the dude was born in 1991, but he's so clever. He's the president of a company in Buffalo, New York. And one of the things that's really important to him is doing this community involvement, because for him, it's really important to support the community that supports you. This is one of those really advanced tactics that so many home service companies forget to take advantage of. And it is so easy to make a massive impact on your company culture and on your bottom line if you think about this the way Lucas does. So let me introduce you to Lucas, and you're going to want to take notes. Let's get going. All right, Lucas, I've been looking forward to having you on, and I'm really glad we were able to make it work. But I guess before we hop on in, let's maybe start for the boys and girls at home who don't yet know who you are. Let's just start there. Who are you, and what do you do?
Sure. My name's Lucas Cellino. I live in Buffalo, New York, and I am the president and CEO of Cellino Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. My father started the company 28 years ago now, and I grew up riding with him, riding with a few different techs. We were always a small shop, and I always knew I wanted to get in plumbing. I remember I played hockey. In between hockey practices, I'd ride with my dad, do a call, and one call, water came up, flooded the basement about 5 feet up, and I watched my dad go over the sump pump, give it a kick. We watched the water go down, and ever since that day, I knew I wanted to get into the plumbing business.
Oh, that's crazy. So this is like you literally grew up in the business. You like went to work with your dad, as it were. Like you've been around this for a minute.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's awesome. So one of the things that I know that's really important to you is you've done a lot of things, right? Obviously you've got the business, you've worked on like custom software, like all this is really cool. But one of the things that kind of sets you apart, I think, is this idea that you're big on giving back to your community. And I think this is such an important topic because so many home service companies don't realize A, what this means and how important this is, and B, how to do it and how to get started. So I'm really curious, like, why is giving back to the community, supporting the community that supports you, how did that become such an important idea for you?
Yeah, so it really goes back to our mission. Our mission is really simple. It's 3 different lines: to be the company where employees love to work, customers want to refer, and makes a positive impact in the community. So we focus on that. We have metrics reached to ensure that we're getting there and reaching it. But as far as giving back to the community, we definitely have we do a lot of things that are really unique. And what we've learned is, customers, if you look at our reviews on Google, a lot of people mention, this company's one that's always giving back. A lot of nonprofits. We do a lot of really unique, different ways to choose the nonprofits. And I got a pretty cool story of how we started, made a big splash into it. But
yeah, because I'm curious, because I was literally talking to someone, was it yesterday? The day before, something like just the other day. And the idea came up of they like this particular contractor was so obsessed with needing to quantify everything. Like if you're doing AdWords, like he needed to know, like, hey, I paid for this click and I got this out of it. I paid for this and I got this. And when you do stuff like this community sort of engagement, sometimes it hurts people's brains that wants to quantify everything in like a clean spreadsheet, because that's not always what this sort of stuff is. So let's maybe first, like when you talk about like this community involvement, like what sort of things are you talking about? Can you give a couple examples of what these things might be?
Yeah, so I mean, the number one events, any employees that have kids on any sort of sports teams, no brainer, go out and sponsor those. So anything that's close here, close to any of your coworkers, that's an easy one to get into. I'm a huge dog lover, so there's tons of dog rescues around. Big supporter there. the most interesting one. So this started, I want to say 6 years. We just had our sixth truck wrap. So 6 years ago, I have a TV in my office, and I never use it for TV except for one time in the year, and that is March Madness. Not a
Of
big
course.
basketball fan, not a huge basketball fan, but I love March Madness. And I had the just browsing through it, and at this point we had a new truck. We were going to wrap it. We were just changing up our wrap, and we were trying to figure out a way to give back to the community in a unique way. And I've always been involved in nonprofits, and always really hard to choose. There's so many out there. There's so many that do so good, and they really push that dollar so far and make such an impact. So the thought came across of, let's get 32 nonprofits and kind of build a bracket and let the community choose.
Oh, that's fun.
And what they would win would be, what did we start off as? I think we started off donating 10%. Don't quote me on this. I think it was 10% of that truck's profit would we donate to that nonprofit for the year, and then we'd leave the truck wrapped. And so we opened it up, and we quickly got like 100 submissions right off the bat of nonprofits. And we went right to the 64 nonprofit bracket, and it just got a ton of traction. So we do it every March, and it follows right with March Madness. Community votes all the way down to the final two. Then we bring the final two nonprofits in. They do during company meeting, each kind of give their pitch, and we let all the Cellino Plumbing employees vote on which nonprofit's going to go on the truck. We now do we donate $25 for every tune-up we do now. So it's also a nice way to promote tune-ups, and it gets a nice drive there as well.
Okay, so for the people who like to quantify the impact of gestures like this, because this sounds like a fun activity, like a nice distraction, but I can still see people's minds struggling to connect the two things of going,
yeah, sure.
Hey, we're doing all these things, we have this bracket, and it's cool, but I just need jobs on the board. Like, what types of specific measurables can you attribute towards that sort of action and activity?
Yeah, so we do use a third party to run this, and it tracks everything. So we see how many unique users go on and vote. We see how many votes altogether. So this year we had, I think, 9,000 unique voters vote for it.
Crazy.
And it came out to like over 100,000 votes. We had tons of votes. So that's certainly a way to measure it. But at the end of the day, like, those votes, they don't mean that much to me. It's like I'm one of those weirdos that likes marketing and loves numbers. So I kind of got that unique personality there where I do like to quantify, but at the end of the day, like, that vote, I think, means so much more because there's an impact and there's a connection with them. And it certainly seems to stay. There's so many customers that mention us and how we're known to give back to the community and do that. And the impact on marketing the calls, that we didn't do that for that reason, but certainly getting that kick in helps a ton. It makes a huge impact for sure.
So I've like friends of mine have shops who have done similar, not as cool as the March Madness idea, but they've noticed impact on things like their social activity like starts blowing up, right? Their followers, their reach, their engagement, like just on social, like all these kind of obvious things that on social people like to go for. Things like web traffic, people visiting the website, things like this, unique new exposures, like anything involving branding, those things start going through the roof. And especially if it's, I think I hear a dog clacking in the background. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. He's on all the trucks. So you'll see.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But like, and if it's especially a cause that tugs at people's heartstrings, I've literally heard stories of customers like hearing the story of whatever the company was doing, writing it down, putting it in a drawer, and whenever they needed to like have a plumber, or have an electrician, or whatever the job was, they would pull out this thing that they wrote down and be like, oh, I wrote you down because I heard that you did this for hurricane victims, or you raised this money for the schools, or you whatever the cause that was near and dear to them. And they're like, I knew that when the time came, I would want to call you. And those things are like so stinking cool because they bypass traditional marketing. Like, as a marketer, it's like, it's going to be really hard to attribute that to PPC or GMB, like this point of last touch. It's this idea of like you're capturing somebody's heart. And that is a really powerful force when you're trying to scale.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, like, every year, going maybe 3 years ago, I could tell you exactly the difference in web traffic, how much more there was. I used to track it. I used to track everything. And at some point, I just realized it's a lot more about branding. And,
Yeah.
we're one of the larger companies around, so it does help there too. But it's, the billboards, the trucks, I think everything kind of goes in there, and just getting out there and showing support for the community, it goes a long way. And again, it's in our mission. We believe in it. We want to show that we believe in it. And that's just our way to measure it. So we also have, we have a marketing budget. Our marketing budget is 6 to 8% of our revenues, where we try and stay within. We also say that we want 10% of that marketing budget to be donated to different nonprofits.
10% of the 6 to 8% goes to nonprofits.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep.
So here's another thing that I don't think a lot of people think about. What sort of impact does partnering with these sort of nonprofits and charitable causes that are important to the community, what sort of impact can you say that has on the culture of the company, of the techs? Like, what does that do with morale, with attrition, with things like that? Can you say that there's any impact? And if there is impact, like, what does that look like?
I can tell you there's a ton of impact. There's been nonprofits that, just the conversation comes up. We had Ant Nature Trail. It's the first autism nature trail created. So it's
that's awesome.
It's in Letchworth Park. It's beautiful there, and they created this trail just for anybody with autism. And we learned all about it, and we learned, there's a couple of techs with kids with autism, and we had this whole discussion. So it really brings everybody in the company together. We wrap the trucks too, so we still keep our logo on there. We change the colors. So we got 7 different trucks that are different colors, but keep the logo on. We let them kind of design the image. So we bring everybody into VSP, who does all our truck wraps. They also donate this wrap for us, so they do this for free every year. But we bring them all in, we design it, and the tech driving it, they get a little pamphlet to hand out to customers, talk about that nonprofit. And we had one where it was Down syndrome, and they pulled up and they figured a job. Next door was one of the kids on the trucks that ran over, got their picture next to it. A lot of nonprofits ask us to bring the trucks out to their events. So the truck definitely gets out there, and it's all these secondary sort of benefits that you don't predict. We've just seen out of this.
Do you feel like, okay, let's get weird. I don't want to get cold, because I think
Let's get weird.
Well, because look, I know guys. I don't know if you wrestle this, because I respect this. I know some guys like struggle with, like, they want to support causes that are important to them, and it could be things like a Down syndrome organization, but they want to do it like low key. They don't want people to know that they do it. They want to just kind of do it because it's important to them. And there's this idea of going, hey, there's nothing wrong with leveraging your business capabilities to help a nonprofit, and at the same time helping your business gain exposure. Like, it's a win-win-win across the board. And if you can do that, fantastic.
So
right?
and I'm a little outspoken, and I make it a point to say, look, at the end of the day, if I can get more calls from this, I could give more back. So if I can get the benefit from it, we could keep doing more and more and more. So that's the way that I like to look at it. There are certainly people that have fought me on that, and that you should just do it for the right reason, not look for it. And we do small donations here and there. But the truck wrap, we'd like to make a big deal. We do commercials, we have billboards for it. We do make a big deal of the truck wrap for sure.
The truck wrap is such a cool idea. And look, there's what I told, like, this particular guy who's come to mind. Like, I told him, like, there might be a reason to do both, right? There might be something like lines up with a company's mission, vision, values, brand, like that. It's a good synergy.
Yep.
But you still might have like this side project that's really important to you that feels awkward to, like, put a company logo on. So, like, for him, one of the things that was important for him is he wanted to be contribute money specifically to at-risk families, like financially like low-income families who could not provide clothes, shoes, school supplies for their kids. He didn't want to do it to the district. He wanted to do it to the specific kid. And it was easier for him to do that as a human, as like a person, and just like write the check, go shopping, like do the stuff. That felt like a better personal attachment for him. And then he could let his company brand carry other attributes that were complementary. They weren't, right, they didn't compete, they didn't take it off, but it didn't feel quite so much like this plumbing company's helping put shoes on this one kid.
Sure.
That can be
and I completely agree with that. So, that's the company's mission, is to do that. And then me as an employee, I also have that. I'm on 4 boards, and that's where I put my personal touch into it. So I am on a board where we're building the first senior dog sanctuary in Akron. I'm on a board called Character Council, where it's all about promoting good character to to kids, and then a couple different colleges and a trade school board as well. So I do believe as a person too, you should do it, but as a company, that's the company's mission, or that's the company's way of giving back. And
Do
that
you
one we
ever?
promote.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Like, absolutely. Are there any cases where there's people on the team, especially if you have like a leadership team in place, where maybe they critique or criticize these sort of efforts and engagements as like distractions? Like, do you ever feel like that these people are like, "Meh, meh, 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 we shouldn't have puppies"? Like, do you feel like there are people with really small minds trying to
No,
run their lip? You know?
no. So picture this. This was the last one, and we just had it. It was our last company meeting. So we walk in. There's a baby kangaroo. There's a giant transformer thing. There was a kid named Romello there, 12-year-old kid. He's gone nationwide now on news stories for some kid was being bullied for old shoes, so he took all his chore money and bought the kid shoes. He
That's so
came in and
cool.
spoke. So that was for one nonprofit, actually one called Sweet Buffalo. So you could certainly follow them. And then there was another nonprofit, and this is where it gets a little weird because it's the one I'm on the board for, and I never promote it. But here was my problem: is this is going to pay out about $70,000. I said, look, you guys, they didn't want to do it, and I said you have to because I'm not going to give you $70,000 of value being on this board. So they went in, and I obviously I love Sweet Buffalo too. We work with them a lot. I personally didn't vote, and I didn't promote it at all this year. And I didn't tell anybody who's on the board. So it did get a little tricky there. But I also have a girlfriend that runs a domestic violence group, and they were in the top 4. And this was the first year that's happened. So it was a tough one this year. Luckily, it was one that I have no connection with. That won, I guess. And I hate to say luckily there, but either way though. So this is the worst part of it is I now know after doing this all these years that my job when I get home from that day after the winner's announced, I have to respond on Facebook Messenger to people. Always find a way to put down whoever won, and they shouldn't have won. They find all sorts of stuff, and I spend my night pretty much responding back.
That's really shitty that you have to do that. That people
Yeah, so
are like,
that is the downside, but not in the company-wide. Company-wide, we've never had an issue, and it's the best company we have all year. It's exciting, it's fun, it's really cool.
I mean, everything you're doing is really cool. How did this become like how did this become something that's so important for you in the company? Like, what's that nexus?
So, and I probably should have started off to give some idea of our size. We're one of the larger companies in Buffalo. We have 70 employees. We should do about 16 million this year. And I know most other markets that would sound crazy to be one of the larger companies, but Buffalo is known for small business. Also, the name Cellino, if you go anywhere in New York State, even California, they likely know the name. My uncle is a injury attorney, a really well-known one, Cellino and Barnes. They made fun of him on SNL a bunch of times. So there is a big Cellino family. We're Italian family, grandfather, just great ethics, great values. I believe we've all been raised that way. We've all been marketers too. But I think it's just a lot of family values that tie down, and we run the company just same way as a family and with good values.
If somebody's listening to this and they're inspired by kind of your mission and the company's vision to like partner with organizations like this, and obviously there are business motivating reasons, right? And you mentioned a few of them, like they help you like reach a new audience, expand your reach, to help attract and retain and boost the morale of employees. But for people who want to go like, hey, but there's also like these altruistic things where people can get on board, where you can engage and create these relationships with the community. The kid who had Down syndrome, seeing his image on a truck, like going take a photo, like that is a really touching like image to think about. If somebody's like wondering like, how do they start thinking about what sort of partnerships, what sort of opportunities, what sort of ideas that they might be able to get started? Like, do you have 2 or 3 things like, hey, these are good like thought questions to help them start the discovery process for things that might make sense for them?
Yeah, so and I'll start with this. My personal belief is that if you're doing it for business, it's just not going to work. If it's not authentic, it's not something you don't believe in, you're looking to get marketing value out of it, I personally don't believe it'd work. I think you truly got to believe and want to do it. So I think if you're one of those, and I don't think there's an issue if you're not, but if you're one of those going to the next step further, what the biggest thing that we learned is that it wasn't just one nonprofit winning each year, it was all 64. I would get thanked for how much publicity it got. It brought their whole team together and all their supporters together to vote. So just number one, getting the branding out there. These nonprofits don't get a ton of branding. They're all, I mean, it's insane how many hours they work to really fight their cause and get that done. So they don't have a lot of branding. They don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of money. So the more that you're just helping them brand and get their awareness out there. I mean, you can have a tie to a nonprofit and just leave a sheet at the customer's house. Everyone has the email list now where you certainly could send it out and put a tie in. Maybe donate to nonprofit for every. I think tune-ups are great. It's a good one to easily get people in on and gain new customers. So there's all sorts of ways, but I would say find out what those nonprofits need. If there's one that you truly believe in, figure out what they need.
Is there any like lesson that you know now that you wish you would have known 5-6 years ago of like, hey, if you're doing this, if you're get this big heart and you get this big idea, be careful not to make this stupid mistake like I did. Is there anything like that?
With the nonprofits, don't go too big too quick, because when we first started, we tried running our own bracket and it got all messed up, and everyone's calling you out on how are you counting this, and they don't trust it. So I would say, number one, make sure your infrastructure is good and don't go above and beyond. So whatever that idea is, make sure that's rock solid, especially if there's some sort of voting system in there.
That's actually a really good point. There are tools that specialize in being able to do services just like what you're describing. Can I ask what tool or process or company you use for this?
I would love to answer that, and quite frankly, I don't know anymore. I'm not. I got a marketing director, and she's not too far away. Maybe I can grab her later, but I'll get that at least back to you.
No, that'd be awesome, because there
are a ton on there.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that that's an option, right? There's a way.
I want to say it's Second Street. But I don't want you to quote me on that either.
Is your marketing director with an earshot that you can like see?
Hey, Taylor, is it Second Street that we use for the voting? It is.
Okay, good job.
It is.
We'll put this stuff for Second Street in the show notes. I'm gonna like put a note here, Second Street, because yeah, I think a lot of people are like, well, how do I do it? I've got to go through and count it, and I don't have the time. Like, no, there literally are ways to do this that don't involve you spending your time or having a CSR go through and count. And to your point, it makes it less biased. It gives you the opportunity to appear impartial. It's not like, hey, my girlfriend's on the board at this place, so surprised how she ended up in the top 3. That's weird.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that happened to anyone that I recently
No,
met.
certainly, and it's I don't think anybody at our company would ever question it, but yeah, certainly, if they did win, I'm sure some people out in that community that don't know us would have some questions for sure, and rightfully so. But no, we would never cheat the system.
No, of course not. We would never cheat the system. Dude, I'm totally agree.
Be careful, set the rules down, and so what we do is they have to have a local presence, they have to be 401c3, and they can't win the year before. And that was our rules. So here's our rules, this is what we do. Anytime somebody argues, I said, look, here are the rules, and this is what we follow, and that's it. So in that case, if White Whiskers won, I'm on the board, it's in the rules. I'm sorry, but that's the community voted to get them there. I didn't. Another third party used it. I guess if I ever need to show them an audit trail, I certainly could. I would have no problem getting somebody to log in.
I hope nobody would be that trite, to be like.
You would be surprised.
I know that people. I mean.
If our football and hockey teams start doing better, people might calm it down a little bit. But come March, the Sabres are out. The Bills didn't make it to the Super Bowl yet again. West New York just went through a long winter. It's we should probably wait till like May, and I bet you we get a different outcome.
Fair enough, dude. If it was awesome having you on, man. If somebody wants like reach out to you, pick your brain, see more about the types of partnerships and opportunities you're doing to engage with the community, is there a good way that people could hit you up?
Yeah, and I would first say, go to our website, because there's a lot on there. We have a whole truck wrap. We have all the winners on there. So if you go to cellinoplumbing.com/truck wrap, you'll see all of what we do there. We actually have a commercial page. We're known to shoot a lot of really unique, cool commercials. And I could certainly talk a lot about that. I guess real quick, it is kind of a unique thing that we do. So I believe commercials get old, and a lot of people spend a lot of money, they don't update them. but they're a pain to kind of shoot and get good. So we try and look for, Valentine's Day. We have Valentine's Day one we roll every year. So we, play it for 3-4 weeks, then we could roll it again next year. We have a draft day one. We have, an Earth Day. We try and find these days that happen every year so that we could recycle commercials. But that's all on the website. If they do want to reach out to me personally, my email is luke@cellinoplumbing.com. Anyone's welcome to shoot me over an email, and anyone's looking to get in and help nonprofits, I'd certainly be an advocate and be willing to help.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll make sure that stuff's there, and including the commercials. And I love, by the way, what you're doing. I think is really clever, because a lot of people think that every time you need a new commercial, you have to shoot from scratch, and it's really easy to do like seasonal evergreen.
Yep.
I'm using air quotes,
Cycle.
right?
Yep.
It's like, hey, President's Day happens every year.
Yep.
And so you can shoot something that you reuse, and if you need to update it, if you do, update the B-roll, update the typography so it looks a little bit more trendy, like whatever. You don't have to do the whole thing start to finish again. Man, it was awesome having you on. You are doing exceptional work. It's super, super cool to see the work you're doing. Can't wait to see what you continue to do, and I'll make sure all the information provided is in the show notes. But Lucas, man, super great to meet you. Glad you're able to stop by.
Yeah, Ryan, honored to be here, honored to be on the show, and certainly we'll keep listening.
This episode was hosted by Ryan Redding, author of the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors, and founder of Levergy, the digital marketing solution for serious home service companies. You can subscribe to Blue Collar CEO on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit us online at BlueCollar.CEO and find us on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode. See you soon.